Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Margaret Anastas, publisher of Flamingo Books here at Penguin Random House, and I am absolutely thrilled to be here with the one and only Reese Witherspoon for this exciting event with Premier Collectibles. That's a mouthful. Um, I've had the honor of working with Reese on her picture books, Busy Betty, and now Busy Betty and the Circus Surprise. Today's event will be a Q&A moderated by yours truly with Reese Witherspoon herself. This event is a perfect way to get your signed copy of Busy Betty and the Circus Surprise. Hi, Reese.
Hi, Margaret.
Welcome. How are you?
I'm so good. I've been talking about Busy Betty all day.
I'm so happy to continue that conversation because I love Busy Betty too. So, before we get started with the questions,
Mhm.
from our viewers. Tell us, what is Busy Betty and the Circus Surprise about?
Okay. Well, Busy Betty is a book that I wrote a year ago, and it is a little girl who has a big imagination, tons of energy, and a billion ideas. So she's based on myself as a little girl. I had lots of ideas. I was very busy. I was always doing sports and gymnastics and playing in the backyard, and then coming up with different businesses that I wanted to start in my backyard or out of my desk at school. So that's what Busy Betty and the Circus of Pride is about. It's about a party that she wants to throw for her mom with a circus theme.
And things don't go as planned, do they, Reese? No,
No, they don't.
they don't,
So,
because that's Busy Betty's way.
yeah, Busy Betty. The thing I really like about one of my first ideas when Margaret and I first talked about writing the book was about learning from failure and how
Mhm.
valuable that is as a child. To fight perfectionism, I think we have to celebrate failure as a learning tool. And I certainly had as much failure in my life as success, particularly as a young kid who wanted to try new things. So that's a big piece of the Busy Betty series.
Yep. And you know what? Our first question, I sort of leads into that. This is from David from Fort Worth, Texas, and Rebecca from Angola, Indiana, who had the same question, which was, what inspired you to write a children's book, a picture book, instead of a teen book or adult fiction?
Oh, that's a really good
I
question.
know, I think so too.
Yeah, Margaret and I, when I first had the idea for this character, because my creative process is I usually think of character first.
Hmm.
So we did talk about her being different ages. Um, but I think it was really important for me to reach young readers. So we're really targeting 4 to 8 years old here with this character. She's about to go to school and, she's learning, but she still has that real childlike imagination where she thinks anything is possible. So it was really important for us to sort of write into that character specifically.
Hmm. And I think what you did so beautifully is you created this wonderful character who, for the youngest age, we all know getting kids to read through a character is a great way to get them hooked.
Well,
And
actually,
she's that,
yeah, you were telling me, sorry, pardon my interruption, but you were saying to me how important it is to have a very specific character. And I was like, hold on, that's what I
Mhm.
do for a living. And I already knew that I wanted her name to be Betty because that's my mom's name.
Yay,
I
mom.
was very busy. She was a nurse and a teacher, and she drove the blind on the weekend. And
Mhm.
had a million things going. So I really learned from her that being in service to others is a great way to live your life.
That is so lovely. And both books are dedicated to her.
That's right. I had a
Hmm.
really amazing mother who really
Hmm.
encouraged my magical thinking.
Hmm.
When I told her, I was 7 years old when I told her I wanted to be an actress. And despite the fact that there was no one in our family who was in show business, she was like, okay, let's get you classes. And she always, it didn't matter what I was excited about, she was excited about it too.
Oh, that's amazing. This is a question that I think is going to be very easy for you to read. It's a good one. Penny from California wants to know, when you were a child, did you love reading? And tell us about your love for the library.
Oh, I loved reading as a kid. So my grandma was a first grade teacher, and she'd pick me up from school every day, and she would read to me and help me do my homework. So one really important thing that she would do while we were reading and while I was learning to read was she would speak really slowly.
Hmm.
She would put her finger on each word so I could recognize the word while she was saying the word. And she did all the voices of the characters. So there was a difference in character, and it's how I started learning, oh, different characters have different voices. And it made it more interesting and imaginative. The other thing that I thought was really valuable was, you know, just having a lot of books available. So I think that's so important. The teachers out there who can have books ready for sustained silent reading time,
Hmm.
really valuable. And also asking questions about the main character. Um, do they have a problem? Does the main character have a problem? How do they solve their problem? Margaret and I talked a lot about that while we were writing Busy Betty, and just the structure of how we deal with a hero's journey. And our hero is Busy Betty, and she is experimenting with life in her backyard. So
Hmm.
um, just those benchmarks of storytelling are really important to kids when
Hmm.
they're reading.
And and also, I think when we talk about Busy Betty and who she is, I think what you also did, you sort of touched on this as you're signing there. I know you're signing, is that she has this incredible support around her all the time, and that is sort of what you just talked about, where it's like she's got all these ideas, but she has people around her who are, yes, let's do it, even if it's crazy, and we're here for you. So I think that's great.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Next question is from Catherine from Kentucky. Do you see yourself in the character of Betty?
Oh my gosh, so much. I see myself a lot in her imaginative play, and also that I love starting businesses in the backyard. But I also incorporated a lot of my own children. You know, the billions of questions and crazy questions in the front of
Right.
this book, actually from my son, Tennessee,
That's
the
right.
questions he asked me when he was little, and I wrote them all down because I thought they were so imaginative and funny. Like, do narwhals have long noses because they lie a lot? This is an actual question that he woke
And
up with.
that's actually in the book.
Totally. So you really can't get better than kid logic and kid questions. And he'll sit in our meetings sometimes with Mark,
Yeah.
and he'll be like, "Nah, I
No.
don't think that. Wait, I think the lion should roar." And we
Yeah.
try to wear a costume on the dog. And
Yeah.
like,
My
great,
favorite is he's like, I think that could be funnier,
right.
right?
He
And
suggested that we juggle shoes.
yes,
I was
he
like,
would be like, it could be funnier. And actually, I'll insert a question there because I had a few of my own. And that was that one of the things I felt like was very important to you as you were crafting these stories is humor.
yeah. Oh my
That
God.
was so important. Can you talk about that a little?
Sure. I think, you know, being a parent myself is so important that, especially when kids have big feelings,
Hmm.
that we talk them through it with humor. That's a tool that I use a lot. Like, oh no, you know, if they fall down and hurt their knee, I'm like, oh no, are we going to have to go to the knee store? I hear it's closed at 6 o'clock. Um, but just making light of things and trying to find humor in everyday life too, because life is pretty silly and absurd. And
Hmm.
if you have a sense of humor about things, or you can brush things off, it's really helpful. Kids have really big feelings about failure and about making mistakes. And it was really important to me that Betty had these moments where she was on the ground crying and kicking and screaming. Kids have tantrums too.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I wanted to show that in the book, that
Yeah.
can be at rock bottom, but figure
Hmm.
out how to pick herself up.
Hmm.
Those-
She's got a lot of physical drama, right? Couple
Yeah,
pages in there. Um,
yeah. And also Frank the dog is pretty funny.
Oh, that was gonna be one of my other things. I can ask you that later once we get to it's exactly what I was gonna say is how important Frank the dog was. But, one question from Teddy from New York is he says, "How did you come up with the characters and the personalities in the book?"
Well, Betty was something that we developed. It was kind of a character's voice that I just heard in my head.
Mhm.
So a lot of time when we're writing and reading through the book, I'll talk in the character's voice. like she's basically a professional makeup artist because she watched her mom do makeup one time.
Mhm.
Um, so I watched a lot of kid television shows too.
Mhm.
You know, I don't even know, like there were so many that my kids were watching, but also there's like Dennis the Menace,
Mhm.
old school, is still on one of the channels that you can watch it on streaming. It is so funny.
Mhm.
Just
I
hysterical.
haven't watched it in a long time, but, like, Bo, the brother, I
Yeah.
just feel like you had a really clear vision of who you wanted him to be, like, or sort of like the anti-Betty, where she's getting so excited and he's like, "Hold on, relax there." And he sort of he remains that throughout, her brother.
Yeah, Bo is sort of the voice of reason, and
Yep.
he's like, "Oh, Betty, you're making such a mess. Guess what? You're doing it all wrong."
Mhm.
I had a big brother who was really funny and always around me when I was creating and inventing. He would help me out a lot, actually,
Mm.
and he was always really encouraging. So I had a really good big brother.
And Bo in the end is too, right? We feel like Bo is.
Oh, yeah. As we get to know him better, we see
Exactly, exactly.
he's very supportive.
Exactly. Um, Steve from Maine, I guess I can help you answer this. What was the creative process like with your publisher?
Oh,
Oh,
do
behind
you
the
want to
book.
answer that, Margaret?
Well, I would say, I mean, you can answer it, but I would say that working with you was so, I learned so much from you because you have just an incredible vision. You knew exactly sort of who this character was, but also you were open to sort of like as time went by to sort of like pivoting and saying, wait, this story is going this way. I feel like it should go this way. You were always sort of trying to make her better, which I loved. And I feel like working with something just happened. Working with Cindy, I thought was really amazing. Watching you work with Cindy,
Yeah.
and Cindy's our artist. I thought that was amazing and really eye opening to see you talk to her about her sketches, her artwork, and the back and forth you guys had. I thought was really fantastic. That's how I felt about the creative process. How about you? How'd you like your editor?
I love my editor. From the first time I met you, you were so
Oh,
imaginative,
fun. Mm,
and you really understood how to encourage more creativity and productivity. And you set
mm.
really good boundaries and deadlines for us because when you're around creative people, we kind of need,
Mm,
guardrails. Like, we need this done and we got to get it done. So it was good to be able to be free within, the
mm.
guidelines that we had to follow. And it was great that you were able to help me find Cindy Yan, our incredible,
Oh, yeah.
because I was just very specific about what I wanted it to look like and how I wanted it to play with perspective, how close she gets to the front of the page and how she backs up, uh,
Yeah,
and her emotions were really important to me too.
yeah, yeah. And I feel like she brought all of your vision to life so beautifully.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
We talked
Um,
we talked a lot about the messiness of life and
yeah,
that we didn't want her to be in a clean environment. We wanted her to have mess everywhere. Like, people are messy, kids are messy.
people are messy. Everything's messy. Exactly. Um, okay, so here's a good question. I think you're gonna like this one. Carly from Missouri said, if my child does not have a love of reading, do you have any helpful tips to get them interested?
Um, gosh, I feel this because, sometimes my kids don't like to read. I
Mm-hmm.
think setting a time where you read together or picking something you love to read. Um,
Mm-hmm.
some books that have like rhyming schemes are sometimes more fun to read at night.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or find a funny character that you guys can relate to. Like, I think about um, different characters we've loved. Like, we've loved Judy Moody
Yeah.
series, Encyclopedia Brown, just a classic, great read aloud book because you're kind of trying to figure out a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say, I don't know. I mean, Ramona Quimby, classic,
Yep. Yeah.
incredible.
Classic.
What are some characters that you really think about really help kids? I see
I
Diary
mean,
of a Wimpy Kid. Kids love it.
Kids love it. And I was thinking about this because I have one reader, one child who's a reader and one who's not. And
Yeah.
I feel like the thing, like what you were saying to add to that is, they used to say 20 minutes. You should read with your kid for 20 minutes. And my thing was, I can't get her to read for 20 minutes. Let's just do 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Even if it's 5 minutes, just
Yeah.
5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes. And if you do 5 minutes every day and you're reading a book, and also the other thing I think is great is letting them pick the book in the going to the bookstore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's these Nathan Hale books that are about historical figures that kind of do graphic novel type things that my son really likes. So yeah, also finding things that are maybe more visual.
Yes, that's such a good point. Visual. I that is like because a lot of times that'll make you feel like you're not exactly reading.
Yeah. But being well read is a gift that you give yourself. So also
Mhm.
I would say have your kids watch you read,
Totally.
you know.
It's so true. And hearing you talk earlier about your mom and how reading and her reading and using the voices, it's sort of like it shaped who you are and became.
It
That
really did. It made me
is amazing.
understand that different characters have different life perspectives. The other thing about, yeah, I do think that was a really helpful tool, just changing the voices for each character
Yeah.
really helped. But we would have bedtime reading every night, It was really
And
fun.
that's probably a good tip for Carly that to
Yeah.
use the voices.
Use the voices. Yeah. Find
Mhm.
like a funny voice. Are there any good kids book you think have like a great funny voice?
I think the Pete the Cat books are
Oh,
fun
yeah.
are fun because they're so simple and you can sort of they're so sing-songy. So I've heard that before that those books feel like they're great for reluctant readers because they almost feel like a song.
That's right. It does feel like a song, like a scat song, like that, that, that,
Yeah.
that, that, that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's move on. Okay, so this is a question from Sweden, from Jonathan. He says, my sister Catherine and cousin Abby both moved abroad just last month to study abroad. Do you have any tips or words of wisdom to give them on how to make new friends in a new and unknown environment and
Mm,
adapt to living in a new country?
mm.
Thank you so much for taking this time. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Not exactly about the book, but a nice
It
question.
was so sweet. Well, I completely relate to that because my dad was in the military when we were little. So we traveled a lot and I would have to make new friends.
Mhm,
Um, I think being the person who says hi first is really hard, but it
mhm.
can be the best way to make a friend. And,
Oh,
my mom used to do the thing where when she packed my lunch, she would pack one dessert for me and one dessert for a friend. So that I always had like a lollipop that I had to give away.
oh, that is
I'll
so
make you pocket.
your mom is like she's the gift that keeps on giving. Gosh, that is so nice. Um, Here's a question. Will you consider doing a fun Halloween theme book for children with Betty and her friends?
That would be so fun. Well, Betty does make costumes in this book, so I think that would be a natural extension. Like maybe they started a costume store. That would be really fun.
And that was from Anne from Nashville,
Oh,
Tennessee. Mm.
okay.
Should we take this opportunity to mention the theme of the third book?
Should we?
This the theme.
Why not?
Not.
I mean, right now we're working on a Busy Betty Christmas book.
Yes, we are.
And Busy Betty has an idea on how to make money to buy Christmas presents.
Mhm. It's so good.
It's very
So,
messy.
the seasonal thing. Oh, here's a good question. Oof, I bet this is a big number. How many books do you typically read in a year? Asks Pete from North Carolina.
In a year, say like 25,
That's
25.
that's a lot of books.
Yeah. I mean, we pick a Reese's Book Club book every single month. So I've definitely read 12 great books a year.
Mhm.
So I feel really good about that. And I usually have read a book that a friend wrote or a book that everybody was reading and
Yeah.
I really wanted to read. Um, We have a
And
mutual friend, Ann Patchett, who
we love Aunt
wrote
Patty.
this great book called Tom Lake that everybody's just loving right now.
And I was hearing about the audiobooks amazing too.
The audiobook has Meryl Streep.
I heard that. I
Yeah.
heard that. I'm like torn. Do I read it or do I listen to it? I don't know yet. I feel like I'm starting to think that I want to get more into audiobooks, and that could be the one, right?
Yeah.
That hooks people. We're almost out of time. And so I guess the last
I'm not out of book plates. I'll keep going.
keep going. I guess we can wrap it up. The one last question from Hannah from Florida is, how do you deal with writer's block when
Mhm.
you can't think of how a story should go?
I think, I always try and remind myself and other people who are creatives that creativity is infinite. It literally can't run out. You
Hmm.
just need to get re-inspired. So whatever it is that you feel get inspiration, whether it's nature or going to a museum or reading another person's work, sometimes you just need to move your body around, and don't pressure yourself. The more pressure you put on something, the less likely you are to perform.
Hmm.
Just have to let go and be where you're at.
Hmm.
It's
I
hard,
think
it's hard to be creative on a deadline too, but it's necessary.
it's necessary, but I think creativity is infinite is the perfect way to end this.
Let's stitch that on a pillow.
I mean, stitch it on a pillow, put it in a Busy Betty book. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. Well, I hope some people want some signed Busy Betty books because we have a lot of
Look
them.
at that. Oh my gosh.
Look how many we signed just while we were talking. I
Oh
think
my
we said
gosh.
500, maybe.
You're a good multitasker, turns out. Well, thank you
Turns
for
out.
being here. Turns out.
Thank you so much, Margaret. It's so nice to talk to you. And I hope people love the book as much as we loved making it.
Yep, me too. I think they will, no doubt. All right. Thanks, Reese.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, this is John Acuff, New York Times best-selling author of 7 books and someone who's done a live signing. If you like the one you just watched, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. It's full of amazing authors having great conversations and signing books for viewers just like you. So make sure you subscribe, and thanks